Okay, this is Podnutz Daily for June 19th, 2008. I sent out a Twitter earlier today. I've been experimenting with just a little something for fun. I call it Podnutz TV. I actually have the domain podnutz.tv, which it will be, but it's the domain name hasn't propagated yet. I actually have on justin.tv/podnuts. I'm just doing a live feed from my shop if anybody's interested or bored or wants to just watch what's going on there. We're just basically two guys, me and my dad, sitting there working on computers. Not very exciting, but I get in the chat room there every once in a while, so if you just feel like checking it out, check that out. I'm just going to keep it on during work hours, which is Monday through Friday, 10 a.m., 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check it out. It's boring, but pretty cool in a way. All right. Windows machine I did today. It was an HP. It was a Windows repair. Wouldn't boot. It's an old Celeron. It actually uses PC 133 memory, so that's dating it a little bit there. And it wouldn't boot. Every time the guy tried to boot, it would get halfway through the boot process and then reboot on itself. It wouldn't blue screen, but it just kept rebooting. So I tried fixed boot. Now, fixed boot usually will work if and you get to fixed boot through the recovery console. If a computer gets past you turn on a computer, it gets past the original flash screen, and you don't even see the Windows logo come up, you have a better chance of using fixed boot because that fixed boot repairs the boot sector. And if you're not even seeing Windows come up at all, then you know there's something wrong with the boot sector probably, so fixed boot might fix that. If it gets through that and you see Windows booting up, Windows logon screen comes on for a while, runs for a minute or so, and then it reboots, then you're probably looking at a Windows problem that fixed boot's not going to handle. So what I ran then after that is check disk. Just tried a regular check disk, then I tried a check disk /R. Neither of those fixed the repeating boot. The boot kept rebooting on itself. So since I had his original Windows disk and he was running Windows Professional Edition, if you're having a problem with Windows and you don't want to wipe out the operating system, you can actually rebuild the operating system on top of itself using a function called Windows Repair. Now, if you boot from a Windows DVD or CD and go to the Start Setup, the first screen you're going to get is, do you want to install a fresh copy of Windows or do you want to go to the recovery console? Or I think it actually says, do you want to repair the installation using the recovery console? You press R. That's not where you do a Windows repair. That's where you can run fixed boot, check disk, and a couple other things if you want. But that's not where you do Windows repair. Act like you're installing the operating system fresh and just, I think you hit Enter to get to the next screen. Then you hit F8 to do the service agreement and whatever. And then at this next screen, it'll ask you, do you want to install a fresh version of Windows or you want to repair an older version of Windows? And if you hit R, it'll actually try to see if there's a version of Windows already on the hard drive, and that's the spot where you press R. It'll ask you if you want to do a repair. That reinstalls the operating system on top of itself without wiping out any of the data. I actually think it keeps the registry intact too. I'm almost sure that. Don't quote me 100% on that. So this way, he wouldn't have to reinstall all of his programs. Everything in his folders are kept okay, and you have a fresh Windows installation. So that's what I went ahead and did, and it basically looks exactly like a normal Windows installation. Goes through all the normal procedures, and then the process goes through or counts down from like 39 minutes down to 0. You got to go through that, so it takes about 20-30 minutes to get through the whole thing, depending on how fast the computer is. And it got through that, and then it brought me to the screen. Right after you set up Windows, you know the blue Windows setup screen. It's the screen where you have to enter the username and tell the computer if you want to install automatic updates. It's the screen right before. It's like your final step screen. I don't know what exactly they call it. It's not Windows setup. It's like Windows preparation. You put in some username stuff. Got to that screen, and the thing just dragged along, slow. The hard drive just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. So I thought that the repair didn't take hold. Well, so I went ahead and I reinstalled Windows in a parallel installation like I talked about before, and it also ran slow. But I was able to get far enough into the installation. It finished the whole installation out, and I went and looked at how much memory he had in the machine because I didn't really know. Since it was an old machine, I was fearing that it was like less than 256 meg of RAM in the machine, and there was. It was 128 megs of RAM in the machine, of PC100 memory. And on top of that, well, so anyway, so I installed another 256 meg of RAM, so it brought him up to 387 or somewhere around there. And then I rebooted back into his installation, thinking that adding the extra memory might get us through the Windows repair. And it actually did. The reason the computer was running so slow is because it only had 128 meg of RAM. He had Norton installed with the full security suite, and a couple other big programs were trying to run on Windows XP on an old machine with only 128 megs of RAM. You can't do it. I can't believe it actually ran at all before he even brought it in. So after the upgrade, it ran faster, and then I took Norton off, and it ran like a rocket. And then I went and put AVG on, and it ran fine after that. So Windows Repair is a great tool, but you need to have the same operating system. Like if he was running Windows Home Edition and you did a repair with Windows Professional Edition, you're going to mess it up. So just make sure you have the proper disk. And a Windows Repair is a great tool if you just need to repair the operating system or something in the operating system is acting funny. Not the boot sector or not a driver issue or not something like that. So that was that. That worked fine. Okay, then the next thing I want to talk about is an Acer laptop I had today. It's about a year or so old, and here's the thing. There's the subject I want to discuss. Vista versus XP to a certain extent in regards to drivers. This computer was an Acer 3680 laptop. It was out before the year 2007, and it was out during the introduction of Vista. So you were able to buy this machine with XP installed, and then after Vista came out, you had to buy the same machine with Vista installed after January 1st, 2007, or January whenever Vista came out. So we did an install, and we wanted to put just XP on. And on a computer like this, you can get away with installing XP because it existed while XP was still being installed on the machine. So drivers do exist for that machine for Windows XP. If it came out mid-2007 to present time, there was never a point in time when that particular machine would have had XP on it, so manufacturers don't even make drivers for XP in some cases. So it's very difficult if you have a computer that has Vista installed and the customer wants XP installed on it to go find all the proper drivers for XP because they're not going to be on the manufacturer's website, usually. And you have to usually go to the manufacturer of each of the components that you're trying to install the drivers for and find drivers for XP. It usually takes a long time. Unless somebody knows there's a great way to figure that out, it could be a nightmare. But it still can be done.